Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of Over the Top Talk. I'm Owen, the host for today, and I have two gentlemen with me today that, run their own podcast as well as me, but I'm going to let them, kind of introduce themselves. So, welcome, John and Chris, to the podcast. How are we doing today, guys?
Living the dream, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic. How about you, John?
John is on mute, so over on our channel, that now
That's a
calls for
bong rip.
That's a bong rip to everybody.
That's a bong rips for everybody. How's it going? Doing great here. Having a little bit of stormy weather on the East Coast of Florida, but we're surviving and doing the thing. Having a good day so far.
Perfect. So, I was on you guys' podcast a couple, weeks ago, but now it's my turn to kind of get to know you guys, ask you some questions. So, do you guys kind of want to start with, telling the people a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So first of all, my name's Chris Page, as you so eloquently put at the top of the program. We kind of put a team together of about 5 or 6 guys calling ourselves CCP Podcasting. We're on YouTube. I guess we've been doing it, what, John, about a year, a little over a year that we dove into the real market of professional
The
wrestling.
real market, yeah, probably about a year and a half tops, I guess, is when we started doing real wrestling.
Our YouTube page is kind of where we drive a lot of our content. We film over on Twitch, which is at CCPE Podcasting on Twitch, and we upload on YouTube. And I think we got like almost 700 subscribers in a year, just diving into independent wrestling and doing some different shows, trials and errors, if you will, right? Like starting off small with simple match watch-alongs, and then evolving it into 2-hour broadcast of legends of wrestling and inside the indies, like different show concepts that appeal to us, right? Because wrestling is such professional wrestling is such a broad market here in the States. We miss more than half of the good stuff that's going on overseas because we're not looking for it. And we dove into that and have found a lot of different levels of success with it. And it's an adventure every day. It's a rabbit hole that goes deeper and deeper. And we're just here to have fun and enjoy the ride, if you will. And at least that's my perspective, being the quote unquote face of the brand. John, what say you?
I think I have a different start point for our endeavor. I started streaming game content and working on a YouTube as a game content creator almost 5 or 6 years ago, I guess. And I had been a Twitch affiliate for a few years, and I had stopped streaming for a little while, and we were doing some eFed content at the time, and we were doing some talks with handlers and talking to them about their characters and the stories they were involved with. But wrestling's always been a passion for both of us, being from the industry and getting to spend our time in the ring as workers. Wrestling's always been something that's in the background for me and in my mind, and something that I enjoy and that I like to enjoy. So then when we were doing the e-fedding podcast, I called Paige one day and I'm like, hey man, listen, I know that you are about to stop doing the e-fed stuff. You've run your exhausted route of interviews with guys that you're doing, but what if we did something else? Like, you have a platform. I know how this works. We should put it together and do real wrestling content. And he's like, man, whatever. Lots of people do that, blah, blah. Like, no. But like, it'll just be fun. It'll be fun. It's a fun project for us to enjoy, and it'll keep our little bit of fans entertained with us. And it just started from there. And we broke out with some spotlight work where we pick a superstar and talk about their careers and talk about the big angles they were involved in and watch their Hall of Fame induction speeches and just learn about wrestling. And then Paige started doing the rabbit hole of territories, and he had a territory series, and more people started to become involved, and that's how we got our team around us. And then when we got to a point, there was an algorithm switch in YouTube where we noticed that everything was just kind of falling apart about a year and a half ago. And there was no push for the programs anymore. We were getting demonetized a lot on our stuff. They were copyright claiming a lot of the videos we were trying to post because the networks wanted their copyrights. And we realized that realistically, the longevity of a wrestling channel is only based on how much content that they can put out. It's just like any other industry. And our content was not something that we could put out and get past the copyright laws. So we decided to switch to a whole other venue. We're like, well, you and I both love the indie scene. This is where the next guys are coming from. We should be looking into who the big thing is coming up. Who's going to get signed this year? Let's make our predictions and start doing shows on those guys. So we dove into this like international indie scene, and we have found some amazing talent behind the table, on the cameras, behind the cameras, in the ring, everywhere involved in the indie scene is exploding right now. And we got in early enough that we were seeing it as it was happening. And now we've just become impassioned with what the industry is doing, and we can't see doing anything but this.
Perfect. And can you kind of explain like how did these like interviews come to play? Like, did you like reach out to them through like certain stuff?
That's the man right there. Oh, bong reps
That's
for
a girl, man.
everybody. We're bong repping all day today. All
I
right.
went on mute. So let me backtrack. And we produce, I think, 4 shows a week on YouTube, right? So we started with our Inside the Indies, which is streamed on Monday nights over on Twitch, 7 p.m. Eastern, where we find a different independent show, or we were finding and still are finding different indies from all over the world. That's where it all started. That's the starting point for kind of where we've gotten to today, because based off of that, you know, just like you guys, you cold call. You know what I mean by cold call is send a blind DM, a cold DM. Don't know who they don't know who you are. They don't know who I am. I know who they are, obviously, because I'm reaching out to them. And I just, when we talked about the notion of maybe doing some interviews. Well, I don't like calling them interviews. I call them conversations because
Conversations.
we roll into it a little bit differently than most. We don't have a list of 20, we don't have questions. We just kind of go and have an organic conversation. Uh, it started with our Inside the Indies, and then we branched out, to independent wrestling spotlights, which then got me to thinking like, all right, if we're watching these guys and then we're doing, 2 hours of their matches and watch alongs, like, the worst they could say is no, right? Like, and you don't know if you don't ask. And I would just send a blind DM. It would be the same kind of formatted DM that I would send to just about everybody, explaining who I am. First of all, I would apologize. I'm sorry for sending you this cold, like, because if you read it, like, who the fuck are you? That's kind of what goes through my head. So, first of all, I'm apologizing that I'm coming at you cold because you don't know who I am, and I introduce myself, introduce the channel. We're self-funded, et cetera, et cetera. I've seen some of your work. Very interested to see if you want to talk to us. And surprisingly, we started getting a lot of yeses. And it was something that, with every show is trial and error, as I'm sure you're aware, Owen. Like, when you do shows like this, you constantly learn. Like, you yourself, you figure out the chemistry aspect with your co-host and with your partners, and you get into a groove. It just takes a little bit of time. So our first 3 to 4 shows were, as far as the Beyond the Bells, which do drop on Fridays over on our YouTube page. Uh, the first 3 to 4 shows, we were just trying to find our niche and find our show flow, and we did. And from there, word of mouth started to travel. These guys were going to their locker rooms, and we had some guys reaching out to us versus us reaching out to them, and it's evolved into even, companies now sending us their shows for us to review on our streams. And it kind of took on a life of its own. Originally we were only going to do 2 a month. Well, in 10 days I have a list of 30 people that want to sit down and do stuff and do projects.
That was a very sobering phone call that day. It was like, hey, I know we said that we were going to do this once every other week, but if we do that, we're booked through next year. So can we ramp up the schedule pace? And I was like, yep.
And that's kind of where we took off. And we've been fortunate enough to sit down and have conversations with guys and girls all over the world. Which to me, I tell John this all the time. The fact that there's somebody on every continent that knows my name is fucking crazy, because I'm just a guy that worked in the business for 5 or 6 years back before, a lot of the guys that are on the
Before
scene
the
now
internet.
were born. Yeah, the internet wasn't a thing. And dive back into it now, 20, 22 years later on a different side of the equation, it's fun. And I think that's where we resonate a little bit more with some of the guys, is because we have been there. We have done it. We've in different aspects of the game. Now, was I this big bad star? No, I was average indie guy that worked in Alabama, which didn't have a big scene, and I was a big fish in a small pond. But being able to sit down and kind of resonate with some of these guys who are going through training, like the stories that we hear, it's really fun stuff. I'm sure you can attest.
Yeah, and kind of with that, what's kind of like you guys' favorite thing about having these people on here and their stories, stuff like that?
Oh, it's
John,
getting to talk
you
to
go
people
first.
in yeah, it's absolutely getting to talk to people in the industry. For me, and I know a lot of guys that watch this that are workers or have been workers will resonate really hard with this. There's something about wrestling that is infectious. And once you become a worker and you get involved in the business and you're behind the curtain, you're in the locker room, you're behind the camera, you're behind the mic, you're doing whatever it is, there's something about that that doesn't ever leave you. If it's something that you really love, you get bit by it and it stays in you forever. And you can stay away from it for a while, but something will always draw you back in. And for me, that's really what it is. I know that I'm too old and too busted now for my years in the ring and the work that I've done to do it again the way I did before. I know that I'm too far past that. But it doesn't stop me from wanting to be on a table or wanting to be behind a microphone or wanting to work on the product or wanting to get hit in the head with a chair. Nothing stops me from wanting those things. And as crazy as that sounds, every single dude out there, or girl out there, everybody that's ever been in a locker room, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So this is my way to keep connected to a thing that I'm passionate about and share stories and talk to guys in the industry and get to relive vicariously my heyday of being a wrestler through the guys that we talk to and sharing those stories with them.
I think for me, it's more about building the connections. The business is always based on, not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. And what started as, wanting to talk to and hear the stories, I'm more interested in connecting with the person, not just the wrestler, the guy or the girl, that the talent themselves. And connecting with various promoters throughout the world, and being a guy that people reach out to, and by people I mean some of the talent that still reach out to me today. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about this? Um, I think that's the win for me, is because it's not just the one show. It
Mhm.
progresses past the one show, and we still stay in touch, and still conversate, and still continue to build the relationship. Like, we're talking to a Fed in Australia right now. One of the projects that we're working on is getting their students a platform. And what's that look like? How does that work? They don't have people that can work on the project. Well, we're in talks with them about filming their student matches and putting together a student show every 2 weeks. Stuff like that, being able to help a company, no matter how big or how small, whether it's interviewing a Fed head. And by Fed head, guys, I mean the gentlemen, the guys and gals that actually run the companies,
The
uh,
promoter.
to the talent themselves. If it helps professional wrestling, then I'm here for it. And I think that's kind of what drives me. And I know it drives John, and I know it drives, I want to mention Eric Steele, and Goth, and Devlin Knight, and yeah, all the tremendous people that do this for free with me. Uh, you know, we take what we do not necessarily seriously, because I don't want to be that guy that says his content's the best. It's this, that, and this. It's not. There's always room for improvements. But to be able to utilize what platform we've built to draw eyes to other products, other people who are doing other things, like in the business or around the business. That's kind of where my bread and butter is with what we're doing right now. And that gives me the most satisfaction.
Perfect. And you guys mentioned like you have a team. Can you kind of explain like does everyone have like their own role to like form this together?
Oh man, that's interesting. So John and I really focus on the indies. So we all have a group chat, and I'll drop messages in like, this is what I'm looking for. Who wants to do this project? Who can work on this with me? Who can work on that with me? Because my brain constantly goes. I can tell you, with however many successful shows that we've had double not successful.
Maybe more
So
than that.
we're constantly filming new stuff, constantly filming other programs to see what'll hit, what won't hit, like if it's on tag team wrestling or gimmick matches or something different, right? Just something to keep the ball rolling. When the team started coming together, uh, John and I were working on independent stuff. Well, then Eric Steele comes into the equation. I've known Eric for several years now. He and I have a love for territories, the old school territory wrestling. That made perfect sense for us to do Legends of Wrestling, and the Rivalry show, where we focus on the old school guys, and the old school territory stuff. I ran into a guy named Goth. That's not his real name. That's obviously his stage name. He's over in, where's he at? He's like
Netherlands.
the Netherlands. So he's looking at content from that side of the globe and shooting it my way. And we do a show on Sundays, which is like Wrestling Request Live. Devlin Knight is in the UK, so I have him looking at the UK scene, because I can't be everywhere, and there's so much content out there that in order for me to execute the plan that I have in place, I gotta have people that are just as passionate about the product, just as passionate about the business, that are willing to do this for free, because we're self-funded. Anything that goes into our channel, it's either made off of Twitch and put right back into the channel, or right back into what we need to get done, whether it's software, et cetera, et cetera. And understand that this is a passion project, from beginning to end. Whether we make a dime or not it's not why we do it. We're doing it for fun, and we're doing it because it is fun. And I just happen to have the right people in the right places, that are just as invested in the overall wrestling scene as I am. Because ultimately, we're going to watch this shit regardless. So now we're just sharing it with each other, and sharing it with our fan base that we have built over the last year or so. So without these guys in place, I can't say that we would be as successful as we have been thus far, because everybody brings something different to the table. You know, with Devlin as an example, he got us Mark Haskins. I thought that was one of our best interviews that we've done. He went out to a show, tracked him down, and explained to him what we were doing and that we really wanted to talk to him. Like, that kind of dedication is insane to me. If you're that passionate and you're going to go buy a ticket and see the show just so that you can approach him about this, well, then you're definitely somebody I want on my team. And we're not done yet. Like, I've got bigger plans in place. I'd love to see a lot of content creators come together and form a kind of one big channel where everybody's stuff is available. I think that would be something pretty cool in a much bigger picture. But everything is working towards little small goals. Without these guys, we wouldn't be meeting them.
No, that's
Yeah, and
facts.
obviously with this, podcasts, videos, stuff like that, there's always challenges, problems you run into. So can you kind of explain what problems and kind of how you got through them, stuff like that?
Page must fix.
That is a saying on our channel because we don't get through one stream where I don't have to fix something. Truth is I am not what they call tech savvy. Definitely not me. I'm,
You
I'm
sell
get off.
yourself short, sir.
I've learned a lot, and it's been trial and error. Most of my stuff has been on the live stuff and doing the live streaming because anything can happen. Microphones can go out. You could lose your internet service. In John's case, shit, he could freeze and not say anything for a minute or two, and just being able to adapt to whatever live versus taped, and we have our share of issues, and tech issues is a lot of it. Now I've navigated the interview world and trying to reach out to some talent. I've had challenges there. People don't necessarily. Some people don't want to talk to you if they don't know who you are. Some people don't even want to give you the opportunity to show what you're capable of doing
That's okay.
with your programming, and that's perfectly fine. It's just it is what it is. I tell talent all the time. You don't ever know. It's like I hate to use the Forrest Gump reference, but anytime you reach out to somebody, it's like a box of chocolates. You don't ever know what you're going to get. I've had people be nice. I've had people be mean. I've had people be disrespectful, but I don't take it personally because, again, I don't expect them to know who I am. I don't expect them to want to work with me. It's navigating those disappointments where, damn, like I thought I had an opportunity here. Like I thought we had an opportunity to get it done and it fall through. Or the biggest thing that I've come across, and I don't know if you guys have come across it at all, but is someone saying, "Yeah, we'll do your show," and then it comes around to showtime, and they're not there, or the communication goes out. And I would rather, ultimately, if somebody doesn't want to do the show, then just say that. It's not going to hurt my feelings, I promise. It's not going to hurt John's feelings. It's not going to hurt the channel's feelings. I'm just not a fan of, constantly if you're being led on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we've had 2 instances where that happened, and yeah, it's honestly annoying because we've gone to the point where we've set it up. We give them maybe I don't know. I think the longest we waited was 20 minutes, didn't show up. So I feel like it's kind of more annoying than just saying no. So yeah, I definitely do understand that.
I think ultimately, I think a lot of people, and I don't think it's just professional wrestling. I think society in general, people will have a difficulty saying no if they don't want to do something. And in some cases you do have to dance around it, but in cases like me and John and other folks, like we're just really straightforward to begin with. And I'd rather you just tell me no versus not saying anything at all. But that's rare. I think with us, it's happened twice as well, maybe 3 times.
I like how you put that politely.
I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just having a conversation, So those have been the biggest challenges, though. To be perfectly honest with you, and in John's case, it's getting him on time. And in Goth's case, it's getting him his mic and shit straight before we go on the air. In Eric's case, it's everybody's got a little something different. Eric's usually always on time, and in my case, it's probably keeping me for a 2-hour stream because I have to get up and step out and go back and forth and do other things and leave it on the co-host. But we all have little imperfections. But I think it's the imperfections that bring our team together, to be perfectly fair, because everybody is a little bit stronger where somebody's weaker.
Well, we've all known each other for long enough too. Like you and I have been friends for over a decade. Me and Goth and Eric and Devlin, like we've all known each other for a couple of years now. Like it really does just boil down to we love wrestling, and wrestling is so big that you don't have to love all of it. I don't have to be involved in the territory product. I don't have to be involved in the UK product. I don't have to be involved in particular parts of it because someone on the team is very passionate about that particular niche of wrestling, be it the tag teams, the hardcore, the superstars, the legends, the new stuff, whatever it is. And that's what really brings us together. So all these shortcomings and the technical issues and the scheduling conflicts and all of those things, like at the end of the day, we're enjoying a product and we're sharing it to people who also enjoy the product, and that's what brings us all together. We have a saying on the channel that wrestling brings people together, and it does, from all walks of life, from all around the planet, and all types of people. Wrestling is a conjoining factor, and it's not for everybody, but those people that do enjoy it come together over it, and we get to share it amongst other people, and it makes all of those hassles and difficulties really worth it to share our passion to the audience.
Yeah, and kind of with, obviously having a podcast, stuff like that. How would you say you like find, because obviously you have to sit here for like you said, like up to hours at times. How do you kind of find the time to do this?
With me, it's difficult, but I find it probably helps that I'm up at 5 a.m. just about every morning. And usually from 5 to 7, I'm editing videos or I'm doing channel related stuff. And thankfully, I've got a better half that understands that this is a passion project and supports it. I think that's the biggest piece of the equation. I think I tell people I'm the luckiest dude in the world. I will do 40 hours a week with the real job, and then I do another 25 to 30 hours a week on channel stuff.
Plus your on calls and your
and it can go on for days. The time aspect, though, what I've learned when we first started doing our Beyond the Bells, we didn't have a format, and we still don't. The only thing I tell our guests before we even start recording is I will cut us at an hour and a half. We've done 2 hour interviews. We've done 2.5 hour interviews. We've done 45-minute interviews. I have found that the audience on our channels usually will tinker out about an hour and a half on a conversation piece. So regardless of where we're at in the conversation, like I will say, all right, we're getting ready to wind this down because I don't want to waste their time, knowing that our retention of our audience is going to decrease around that 90-minute mark, and time is valuable, right? Like to everybody, especially to these talents, and especially when they're all over the world, and it's just you don't want to waste it. And if I don't have to keep them, I'm not going to keep them. When it comes to the real life aspect of it, it can be challenging and it can be frustrating and it can be aggravating. But ultimately, like I keep telling myself all the time, like this is for fun. It's if I don't get the show out on this particular day, it's not the end of the world. The one show that I won't push is the Beyond the Bells because those are advertised in advance and et cetera, et cetera. But with the other programs, if I don't get them out, it's not the end of the world. So it's easier, instead of putting pressure on myself, to just focus on one show at a time. When I get it done, I get it done. When it's up, it's up. Because again, those who are going to watch it are going to watch it. If you're not going to watch it, you're not going to watch it. It's never necessarily really about that. It's more of the time restraints that it can put on you if you allow it to put it on you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. John, do you have anything for that?
I think for me, I think the biggest part of it is being consistent. Like I know Mondays and Thursdays, I'm going to be on the camera at 7 o'clock. Every other Sunday, I'm going to be on the camera at 6 o'clock. My life has to revolve around that schedule. If it doesn't, then I won't show up. And it was getting into the habit of being on those shows and adding it as part of my routine for the week that makes it even possible for me to do so. I mentioned earlier that I had started streaming some years ago and was doing game content. And the biggest problem that I had for that channel was the consistency. I didn't have a regular schedule. I wasn't, it wasn't as consistent as a weekly show. And one of the things that content creators have to understand when they're building content is that schedule is important. If you're watching a TV show, and I know with streaming services now it's a little different, but back in the day when we were younger, you watched TV at a set time and your show came on at 8 p.m. on Friday. If you weren't in front of the TV at 8 p.m. on Friday, you missed it. And now you're out of the loop for the whole week because you got to wait for the next one. It doesn't come out again. You can't just get it on a video on demand. You couldn't, whatever. So the mentality of that for content creation is that your audience is going to get into a routine and be there for your shows on a regular basis. So if they're not there for them to watch, they will allocate that time to something that is consistent, and they'll constantly be missing your show if it's not consistent. So adding those things into my schedule and making my schedule revolve around those time blocks is very important. I know that Paige mentioned earlier that I'm often struggling with time. I'm usually straggling in at the last minute. Like today was like, oh, here I am. I got here. I've arrived. And that's kind of the way my whole life is. And it's frustrating, but there's a lot going on. I've got kids at home and stuff to do and things going on. And while they're old enough now and they've grown up long enough with me being online and doing content that they kind of get dad's recording. So I need a couple hours to do this thing. You guys are old enough to take care of yourselves and get your own drinks, but still maintaining the house structure and the scheduling with the kids and bath times, bed times, food times, things like that. It's all part of the daily structure. And that's always been a struggle for me. But getting in a routine of things has been the thing that's really made it possible even to do this show. And the routine has been the saving grace.
Yeah, and with having these type of shows, obviously one of the most important things is kind of getting your name out there to people. How are some of the ways you guys kind of get your channel out to people?
Well, realistically, word of mouth, right? Like that was the biggest piece to the equation. I'm not a big social media guy. Shocking.
He hates it.
I think it's bane of existence at times. But at the end of the day, you have to have it, right? Like that's the way your stuff will be seen. It's the way that somebody could stumble across it. I think for us, one of the big breaks that we got was kind of early on when we were doing Beyond the Bell. I think our fourth show could have been our fourth. I reached out to Travis Orndorff, who's son of Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and Travis came onto our show and like unloaded like some different stuff, real life stuff that John nor I was prepared for. But it was one of those conversations that was so real and so different. It was really powerful stuff. I asked him off air, this story needs to be heard, and it needs to be heard on a bigger platform than this. And it introduced me to Travis Orndorff, and I produce his podcast over on Paul Orndorff's YouTube page. It's called Hope is Wonderful. I think that was a big break for us because it got our name out there on that platform and associates our product with that product in a way, even though it's just a behind the scenes situation. But at the end of the day, you know, tweeting and retweeting is only going to get you so far. The next logical step for us as a channel, because we're still like in the bigger picture, we're still in our infancy, right?
Oh, sure.
We're still growing. We're still figuring out what's wrong, what's right, how to do things and get things out there. I do think advertising is a key factor in the next layer to what we are doing. Now the only question becomes, how do I advertise? Who do I advertise with? What's going to be the best case scenario for our channel? And then I look at the other side of it. And this is where I think I'm a little different than most, is because I look at things from every angle possible. And then I'll come up with a decision on how I want to tackle it. Our channel has been a grassroots thing since day one. Why change it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If people are coming and the subscriber count on YouTube continues to grow and the metrics on Twitch and the follows on Twitch continue to grow, well, then we're doing something right. I'm not an impatient person. I can sit and wait and let the work that we're putting in get us there, right? Like obviously our goal right now is to get 1,000 on YouTube. I think we're at 700, or we're right around 700.
Just about.
1,000 on YouTube doesn't necessarily monetize your product, because you got to have certain amount of watch hours and you got to have other stuff to get an affiliate with YouTube. But it's a sense of accomplishment. Like it's something that it's a goal that we have set for ourselves. And I will go back to when we first started pivoting to real professional wrestling. I had several people tell me that this will never work. You will never hit 1,000. A year later, we're more than halfway there.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's kind of the FU, if you will, for someone telling you can't do something. Go ahead.
To put that into scope a little bit, realistically, I think two years ago, we started doing real wrestling content and moved away from the eFed content and got into doing real wrestling stuff. And we were under 70 subscribers 2 years ago. So the early part of us doing real wrestling was still a slow crawl. When we moved into the independent stuff, that was when numbers really started to shoot through the roof for us. And the response to it was immediate and impactful for us. We saw the numbers creeping higher and higher as we went, the more we dove into product that the mainstream media misses. And I think that was one of the things that really drove us into the Inside the Indies program, was that we were finding things that were amazing.
John, I think your audio went out. Yeah, no, your audio's out, bro. See, if this was a live show, right there. I don't know what you did, John, but you broke it.
Yeah, it's still.
See if he can get it straightened out. Oh, John Cable, you fuck it all up. Look at you, buddy. While he's straightening that out, if you want to ask another question,
quick question. How do you guys kind of stick with any trends of like YouTube, anything like that?
So I'm not really big on the trends of YouTube. So like I was telling John when we talked to you on Beyond the Bell, I was really interested in picking your brain on that piece of the content creation, because it's obviously it's a younger generation thing. I'm not saying us old folks can or won't get it together, but some things that you had said on your podcast with us, it had got me to like thinking a little bit, like when to post, how to post, noticing when you get traction, when you don't get traction, et cetera, et cetera. Um, it's a different beast. And I'm sorry, my ADD just kicked in. Where was the question? My mind
It
just
was
went that
kind of,
quick.
yeah. Do you guys stick with like any trends?
Oh no, I don't. Yeah, the trend aspect of it, I don't keep up with it. I don't know anything about them. I kind of started playing around with it. That's where I was going. I've started playing around with when I release my content, like time wise during the day. I have set days, but like I've started playing around with, you know, versus posting something at 7 o'clock in the morning, or waiting and posting something at 2, or again in the evenings, just to kind of see, engage. But I try to stay away from a lot of the trendy stuff that's out there, because I feel like everybody else is covering that. Everyone else is talking about it. If it's like trends within wrestling in general, or big storylines that are ongoing, like I'm not gonna get a whole lot out of that because everyone else is already on top of that. Does that make sense? Like it's oversaturating the market on whatever subject that is the trend at the time. Like when Punk left AEW, everybody was on that, like stink on shit. I didn't cover it once because there was nothing to cover. Everyone else had already hit it, and let's be fair, like we're a smaller platform. So even if I wanted to hit on something that was trending at the time, I don't think it's going to attract a lot to my channel because my channel already has its expectations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, because I know, like with us, we're obviously younger. We know, like we use TikTok for some of our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain times we can look at stuff like that. So definitely, I feel like with us, just because we're part of, this newer generation, we're kind of more with some of the trends. But I do agree with that. How, like, with some of the things, like when kind of what you said, CM Punk left, like when CM Punk came back, we didn't really discuss that either, just because, literally everyone was, bigger time. So, with that kind of, what, um, obviously you mentioned that you want 1,000 subscribers. That's like a huge milestone you want. Like, have you thought about like past that yet? Like anything else? Like
I
anything like
have.
that?
I've talked to John and a couple of the guys on the channel. Getting to 1,000 is the goal. So once we get to 1,000, I know on my side of the coin, it's time to kick it into a different gear. And I will pull back off of, and this is a piece of why I built a team. Like I will pull back off of some of the streaming and let them handle the streaming of the shows. And I will go into like a full blown edit situation, because I do have a bigger plan. Once you hit 1,000 on YouTube and you have the watch hours, et cetera, et cetera, I want to be able to draw a profit on YouTube and donate it, whether it be to our channels or whether it be to independent federations, whether that is $100 or whether it's $200 or whatever the course or the case may be. It may be less than that. Whatever profit is generated and we're not using it, not utilizing it, I want to give it back to the industry, because again, the industry is what's giving me right now. So finding a fed that may not have the lighting or the production, or they're trying to raise money for something, like I want to take our money and put it back into the industry, because I don't think anybody's doing that. I'm sure that there are people who are donating to different feds, but I don't think anybody's really seeing where they can help, versus take. Because right now we're doing a lot of taking. We're taking people's time. We're putting on you guys, your audio fixed? No, he doesn't. We're taking people's time, and I want to be able to give it back. And that's the easy way to do that. I do think that there's room for more programs. I think that I have ideas for shows that I want to produce and put out there. I can tell you now, this is John doesn't even know this. I've talked to a guy named Bobby Bishop who's over in Australia. We're going to be collaborating on an Australia only uh, wrestling spotlight show. It'll be like once a month, but we'll look at a different Australian talent that's on the independent scene, specific for that market. I'm talking with Devlin to put together a UK show where we're just dealing with the UK talent. I want to give everybody that is given to us their own platform on our channel where we can look deeper into what's going on in that particular scene. We've made friends in Australia. We've made friends in Portugal. We've made friends in the UK. Here in the States, I mean, there's just so much that I want to do. That is just going to take a little bit of time to get to it. But I think when we get there, that it's going to be something different. And I don't think there's a whole lot of guys out there that, uh, kind of agree on this is where we want to go. This is how we want to get there. And this is what we're going to do when we get there. Eventually, I want to have our own little network. I have longer term goals and aspirations. Like I said, I mentioned earlier about getting with content creators and getting a place together for everybody to put their content. You put it on your page and put it on. We put it on. You put it on different avenues and different pages and different, whether it be YouTube or whether it be whatever. You get different eyes. So there are people who will watch this that have never seen John and I before, but maybe they'll come and check us out. If one person comes over and checks us out and digs what we're doing, it's a fucking win. And the same concept. If one person from our audience, when we air your show, comes over to your channel and hits that subscribe button or hits your social medias and hits those follows, it's small, but it's a gradual thing that will continue.
Perfect. And I think you slightly mentioned it earlier, but what has been like your favorite interview or person to come on your show?
Oh man, they're all good in so many different ways, but I mean I have to go to Travis Horndorf because that show was 2.5 hours, and we were only supposed to do an hour, uh, and it opened the door for so much more. We've had fantastic conversations with Skrilla the Great. He comes to mind. He did so much for us on the Georgia scene that putting us in touch with a couple of other talents that we got on our shows in the early stages of what we were trying to build. Frankie the Mobster, he was a good interview. He was really laid back. And I got to throw some love to Redshaw because he was the guy that started it all. He was the first guy to say yes. And I constantly, to this day, still keep in touch with him. And I still credit him for where we are right now as a channel because he didn't have to. He was the first guy that I reached out to, and he was the first guy who said yes. And at that point, it was off to the races. Um, I think Mark Haskins had a good interview. I think an underrated interview that we put out is with, oh God, forgetting his name right now, Casey Payne. The Payne King, Casey Payne. He's out of the UK. I think that was a very underrated show. KC comes off and is fucking fantastic. But again, they're all good in so many different ways, and it's led to other things. This live streaming, having these guys come on as our guests for a live show, watching back their stuff, watching back, who inspires them, and giving our audience a little bit more, and them also by them being the talent, being gracious enough to do it. Like I can tell you, the Beastman. Here's another guy that is sorely underrated as a professional wrestler. hops on a call with me and says, "Hey, what are we watching tonight?" And we're supposed to be doing an interview, right? I was not prepared for a live stream. He's like, "What are we watching?" I don't know, boss man, you tell me. And we ended up doing a live stream, watching some of his stuff, and had a good time doing it. I think that was one of our first live streams with a talent, and it branched out, and now we're just kind of all over the place. We're talking to everybody that we can get our hands on, because ultimately it's fun, and that's where it's at. As long as they're having a good time with us, I'm here for it.
Perfect. Kind of, last question I have would be kind of what advice would you give to someone that's like starting, or like someone that has a podcast but just not like, really knows what to do?
Don't make a mistake. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give. Don't make a mistake. So I can tell you, and I say that and as a joke. Realistically, the biggest piece of advice that I would give anybody, um, and I said this on a show that I was on a couple weeks ago. Reality is this: everybody in this day and age has a podcast. Everybody. I think I may have told you this on our show. Um, but if what you're doing makes you happy, regardless if you have one person who watches your shows or you have thousands of people who watch your shows, if you are having fun and you are producing the content and it brings you joy, then it doesn't matter. Have fun with it. It's the biggest piece of advice that I can give somebody. You're going to have trials and errors. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have things that come up that are beyond your control. You're going to make people happy. You're going to make people mad. Don't take anything personally. And realistically, enjoy what you're doing. If you enjoy it and you have the passion for it, that's going to shine through. People can see through fake all the time. That's why with John and myself, one of the things that we discussed when we started doing Beyond the Bells, was we going to have a format? Are we going to ask questions? Or are we going to do the organic flow and have a conversation? We elected to have that organic flow because we don't want to come across as like robotic or asking the same questions every show. Now, do we have questions that we ask every show? Yes, absolutely. We have our icebreakers and we have our show closers. Everything else in the middle is as we are having the conversation. Um, and that's how we have fun. So you got to find what brings the fun into your project, and then focus in on that, and don't let anybody take it away from you. We live in a world that's full of hate. If what you are doing brings yourself joy and brings yourself some passion, and you feel good about what you're doing, then that's all that matters. So don't take it too seriously, and have a plan. Don't just go in cold. Sit down and really think about, what do you want? How are you going to get there? What is your beginning stages? What's your middle stages? Just like a movie, act one, act two, act three. And how are you going to get to your finish line? And stick to it. I'm guarantee you, like John said, I think our YouTube channel has been open for a couple of years, but we were just doing eFed stuff. And realistically, when we pivoted over the last 14, 15 months, we've grown to almost 700 subscribers. That's just organic. And it's because we're having fun with what we're doing and we're enjoying those that do enjoy what we are doing. And as long as we don't steer away from that and we continue to have the passion and we continue to have fun with it, I think we'll be doing this for the next 10 years easy. And I do think that that the game will change, right? And we'll be there to pivot as it does. ultimately that's the end. We just want to have a good time. We want people to have a good time with us. I think so far we haven't had anybody on our shows that have come away negatively. Everybody seems to have had a good time, and I think 80% of the people that we've had on have told us, when can I come back? That's a win. That means we're doing something right. So if you stick to your guns, you stick to your passion, you have fun with what you're doing, don't let hate or negativity, factor into it, then you'll be fine. People will come. It's like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Just a matter of when.
And John, did you ever get your mic or?
Nope, he didn't.
All right. For for everyone that comes on there, we thank them for their time, but usually we give them a spotlight, kind of let them shout out whatever they want. Obviously, it'll be in the description, but kind of just have it verbally. So I'll kind of give you the floor to do that.
Oh man, it's I think we've plugged a lot. We're over on Twitch. It's at CCPE Podcasting. We have a Monday night and a Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Saturday mornings at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. Oh shit! Sundays, we've partnered up with IWE Pro out of Augusta, Georgia, to do Reliving the Territories. That's filmed live from 10 to 12 on Sunday mornings on Twitch. And all of our content is available over on YouTube. Even some of our older, more cringeworthy stuff, it's there. I think that's CCP Podcasting Productions 5890, if I'm not mistaken. But all the links will be down below. On Instagram, we're CCP_podcasting. Twitter's at Fireside Page, at Fireside Cable. Merch, we've got Dark Horse Jacks. It's at Dark Horse Jacks on Twitter. I'll send you that link if you want to get a t-shirt and mugs, etc. We're just having fun and living the dream, trying to anyway, one week at a time with independent wrestling and professional wrestling in general. We appreciate you guys having us on. Sorry, Anthony wasn't able to make it again. But we'll definitely pivot when we can get both of you guys over on our show for Beyond the Bell, because I really do think that you guys are onto something. You're doing some tremendous stuff over here with Over the Top Talk, and I know John's microphone's out at the moment, but I'm sure that he appreciates the opportunity to come in and just chit chat with you as much as I have. It's the two shows that we've done. It's always been fun, so we're looking forward to getting you guys back on our show, and I can't thank you enough for giving us a little bit of time here on yours.
Yep, and obviously right back at you. Thank you for coming on, and we definitely will have to spin back, with Anthony, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. But for everyone that did watch, make sure to go follow them. I'll put every link they have that they want me to put down below. Follow Over the Top Talk on Instagram, YouTube, pretty much everything. And thank you guys for being on here, making us a great show. So with that, make sure to subscribe, like, and share, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Have an amazing day, everybody.